our next guest, George Noory, I don't think needs any introduction, really. Is there anybody here who doesn't know about Coast to Coast Radio? We got a few people. They've been hiding in a cave somewhere. Because you know, the Coast to Coast is the most listened to radio show in the world. It began with Art Bell. Started with Art Bell, then they had a few others in between. Now George Noory's had it. It is heard on 564 stations all over the United States. It's the most popular radio show in the world, really. Millions of people listen to it. They stay up all night to hear it. So I think you all know George Noory, don't you? Okay. So we've been able to get him here. You know, it's hard to get him. He got off the air this morning at 3 o'clock in the morning and had to fly down here, and he just was sleeping, and he leaves in the morning, so it's hard to get him here on a tight schedule like that. But this is our next speaker, is George Noory. George, where are you, George? Where are you?
Excuse me, Dolores. By order of the Galactic Governor, there is an arrest order been issued for George Noory to be delivered by the Imperial Guard to Dolores Cannon, Ozark Publishing UFO Conference 2014. They will be bringing him in. Mr. Noory, do you have anything to say before you are delivered to Dolores? Get me out of here! Your order, ma'am.
Well, we said it's hard to get you here. You know, you had to come under protest.
What a fine Arkansas reception. Now, as they were arresting me, I had no idea if they were male or female. I still don't.
She looks like
Until this one, do what you did. I think it's a female. How is everybody? It's good to see you. How many of you were at Dolores's event last year?
Conference last year.
It was a great time. All right, would you free me up now, or you can stay? I guess I'm captive, aren't I?
Is it safe to let him go? Okay, you don't think he'll cause any problems while he's here then?
No, we'll still be around to control him if he tries to get away.
If he does, you come back and arrest him again. Okay.
Ma'am.
Okay. You guys go back to your ship and wait then. Okay.
It's a female.
Okay.
Isn't Dolores wonderful? Let's give her a round of applause. Watch your step there.
Okay. I'll get down. Well, I can put
Every time she calls my producer, Tom Danheiser, and says, look, we want George for the event this year, and Tom will say, well, you know, the schedule's busy. And she said, I don't care. So here we are again. Yeah, she's right. I got off the air at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was in St. Louis, and I got picked up at 4:30 to go to the airport in St. Louis, Lambert Airport. And there are no flights to the Bentonville airport from St. Louis. I had to fly to Chicago, change planes, and then come all the way back down here. And I'll tell you, the scariest part of this entire trip was driving by these cliffs. There were no railings there. My God. And I'm looking down the embankment, and I'm going, does this happen? And they nodded and said, yeah. So one of the things I always do when I come to these events is I ask the person who's putting it on, Dolores, get me somebody to drive me from the airport to the venue, please. I don't know Bentonville. I don't have my little GPS tracking devices with me. Get me a rider. And she said, of course, I will arrange it. It'll be done for you. You and your producer, Tom. Tom's not here. He's back in LA. But I'll do that. I'll get it done for you. So I get off the plane. I carried on. Didn't have a lot of luggage. And I go to where the limo people are supposed to be. There's always somebody there with a sign with your name, right? So I get off the plane, and there's a guy there with a sign that says Art Bell. What? Come on, it's been 12 years. So I figure, well, maybe Art's been invited to come to this event too. Where's my car? No driver. So I go outside, and there's some little guy out there directing traffic, and I said, look, I'm expecting some driver to take me to this venue. And he says, well, sir, I don't know. I don't know where they are. I suggest if you need to get there, you take a bus. I said, take a bus? Come on. And, you know, and I had these phone numbers that Dolores had given me in case I was in trouble and had to call somebody. I'm saying, I don't have this kind of time. This starts at 3 o'clock. I haven't had any sleep all night, so I wanted to take a little nap. So he said, yeah, take this first bus. And here comes this bus. And I jump on, and I sit in the front, and off we go. I realize it's a senior citizens bus. Going off into God knows where. Well, while I'm on this bus, this little, God lover, 90-year-old woman gets up, hobbles over to the bus driver while he's driving, and hands him a handful of peanuts. And eats them. And she goes all the way back, sits down, and she does this 5 times. And I'm watching this going, what the heck is going on? She gets up the 6th time, brings the driver a handful of peanuts. He's driving, pops them in his mouth. And he said, lady, can I ask you something? And she said, yeah, what? The driver says, don't you like peanuts? She said, we love peanuts. We just don't have any teeth, so we suck the chocolate off them. That's my ride here. How many of you are happy with government today? Thank God you're not this poor rancher in Nevada. Have you heard about that story? Yeah, they are backing off. You know why they backed off? Because of us. They did. Finally, a victory for us. I think they're starting to realize they can't keep putting their thumbs on people because enough is enough is enough. So we're going to do a quick little feel-good moment here before we get into the rest of this event. My favorite movie is Network. Did you ever see that? With Peter Finch playing the part of Howard Beale. And he so eloquently said, just leave us alone. Let us have our telly and our toaster and our radial tires, but leave us alone. So before we start, stand up if you can. Stand up. Stand up. If you can't stand, please sit. Please sit. And one of the parts that Howard Beale said so eloquently was, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. So we're going to do this 3 times, and I guarantee you, you'll feel great. People at the hotel may think we're insane, but you're going to feel great. Count of 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. You can do a little better than that. 1, 2, 3. I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore. Feel better? I think 2's good enough. You may sit. Now I would like you to all hop on one leg. They really get into this, Dolores. You're all avid Coast to Coast listeners. You have made this, I think we're on like 7 radio stations just in Arkansas alone. And even though it's called Coast to Coast AM, we're doing a lot of FM stations now too. That seems to be growing. But we have hit our 571st affiliate in North America. Thank you. Thank you. That includes a dozen or so in Canada, and that seems to be growing. And it's ironic, Dolores, that just last week, Tom got a call from some people in London, England, and said, can we do an event, much like what Dolores is doing here, in London? Can we get him up to London? And so we may do that too. But that's how big this program's getting. It's getting that widespread. It is growing. Yep. Absolutely. You know them. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. Do they have a different sense of humor? Would they get the peanut bus joke? Yeah. Maybe I would say the Queen gave the peanuts to the bus driver. I wonder if they'd laugh at that. But we've hit 571 stations. It is now the 2nd largest affiliated program in the country. And it continues to grow. And we're going through a metamorphosis. We continue to change. You know, let me tell you what had happened a few years ago. We kept running out of what I thought were quality content for the show. I mean, how many shows on Bigfoot can you do, right? I love Bigfoot shows. But where is he? So you have to space that out. Same with ghost stories and things like that. But what began to grow were UFO shows with really hard-hitting people like Richard Dolan and our reporter Linda Moulton House. Linda here? Did she make it? Hey, Linda, stand up. Stand up. Get acknowledged. There she is. Come on up here for a minute. Our investigative reporter, Linda Moulton Howe. I was in Boise, Idaho a few weeks ago at an event, and Linda is from Boise, and she was Miss Idaho. How about that? Say hi to people for a moment.
I was up here just a little bit ago. Yes, right?
Go sit down. See you later, Linda. She's pushy on the air, too. You have no idea. She'll send me these emails about her topics she wants for the month. And if I reject one of them, I get 62 emails from her. So we put it back in. All right? Sort of. Can't say no to Linda. But she is a phenomenal reporter. She brings coast to coast that different niche, that flavor that no other radio stations have, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. And you've done your presentation? You're done? So how many people are going to the banquet? All right, great. It's playtime. I'm going to sing there, I think. That'll chase you all out. I would like for just a second for you to give us a moment of silence as well for the late Dr. Roger Lear. As you know, several weeks ago, Roger passed away. He had had some severe health problems. He was fighting back, and he actually went to, and he was a podiatrist, foot doctor. He went to his foot doctor and died there. And it was a very sad story, but let's give it about 3 seconds of silence in memory of Dr. Roger Lear. See, Raj, I told him I'd do that. He was a great guest. And one of the sad parts of the program is we lose some great people, some great guests. Lloyd Pye, the Star Child Project, he passed away. Dr. Lear, Dr. Evelyn Paglini, the occultist, she just died. But that's the part of living, I guess, that we all have to go through. And you know, one of the things that we concentrate on Coast to Coast is the afterlife and what's there. Only because I think there's more to life than what we know. And there are too many synchronicities of life, too many things happen, too many strange events. I mean, this whole thing started for me when I was 11 years old. 11 years old, I had an out-of-body experience. I was bouncing against the ceiling, looking down at my 11-year-old body, and I didn't know what it was. And at that instant, I was rammed right back into my body. We didn't have computers in those days. So off to the library I went, found out I had an out-of-body experience, an OBE, and I was just mesmerized by all that. And then at the same time, my mother was interested in extraterrestrial life and what was going on in the universe. So she would bring me these books and these stories, Look magazine doing the Barty and Betty Hill abduction case. And that just steered me into this direction that I have gone into all my life. And when you talk about how strange things are, I remember when I was 21 years old. My first radio interview, my very first, was with Stanton Friedman, father of modern day ufology, at 21. And I was just with him at the event in Boise a few weeks ago. He looks the same. I don't, but he does. But I'll always remember my news director at the time giving me trouble because I wanted to cover this story with this guy named Stanton Friedman. And he said, George, we don't do those things. You know, I want you to cover city council meetings and murders and fires. And this is when I was in Detroit. And he said, mark my word, Noory, there is no future for you in UFOs. Hello? And it's been one heck of a future. You've all played an incredible role, whether you know it or not, in the direction of this program and the direction of what's happening in this country today. I am so proud to see the many faces that keep coming to events like this because people truly care about what's going on in their own life and in society. And I have learned several things over the course of my career, that there are two things that are critically important to anything you do. Take care of the people you care about, and take care of your health. Because with those two things out of your picture, out of your life, it's not worth it. But once you take care of those two aspects, everything else starts falling into place. And it's something that I try to practice all the time. My son, I've got 3 children. They all live in St. Louis. My son was working in, oh, thank you. The pleasure was all mine. 6 grandchildren now, by the way, too. Unbelievable. I almost got my baseball team. But he was working at a casino in Las Vegas as an executive manager, and he didn't like it. He missed St. Louis. So he got another job with a Las Vegas-based company, but they transferred him to St. Louis. And he's got like a 5-state region. And about a year and a half ago, he said, you know, Dad, we're trying to get back on our feet. He's got 2 kids, married. He says, I'm going to need a place to stay. And what's the first thing you say? Come on in. Stay there. And, you know, stay as long as you have to. It's been 2.5 years now. But when I'm in St. Louis, which is about 30% of the time, there's no better joy than to see a little 4-year-old and a little 2-year-old come bopping around, and they call me Papa George. And they're just precious little people. So that's where this is all headed. This is all we should be here for. And then just gain more knowledge, gain more authority about what you do in your life, and hand it off to other people, like what Linda does in her career now. The information she passes on to us when she's on Coast to Coast is unparalleled. You don't get this in the mainstream media. You know, she's been reporting on the missing honeybees way before anybody else did. She's been reporting on these loud sounds, these booms, these trumpet sounds that people are hearing. What the heck is that all about? But mainstream hasn't picked up on that. But you do. You do. And when you start to tell, and I'm sure when you tell other people who are outside of this arena about some of these things, they probably go, what? Loud booms? What do you mean, dying honeybees? But then eventually they go through these same things, and they happen to them as well, too. We'll tell you a very short story of a metamorphosis. How many of you, guys probably mostly you, when you were younger, played with little model rockets? I did all the time. Not a lot of people. I would build these little rockets and we'd launch them off to the neighborhood, to the community, and it was a blast. And my best friend at the time, his name was Gary Frank, his job was to put the little engines in the solid rocket, and my job was to announce the launch to the neighborhood. So, you know, I'd go, 10, 9, 8, I was like 14 years old, and Gary would launch it, and off it would go, 1,200 feet. And it would come back. We had little capsules in there. Parachutes would open. We used to launch little frogs. I swear to God. No, and they came back all alive. We never killed any of them. Came back with 6 legs, but we would do that. And the parachute would open, and they'd come floating down, and we'd let them out and put them back in the creek. I wonder what they told their little frog friends about that ride. But that's what I did. I did the announcing. Gary did the engines. I end up going into broadcasting. Gary built the engines for the space shuttle. Small world. How this stuff happens is unbelievable. As you know on the program, I say there are no coincidences. Everything happens for a reason. Everything. Whether it's greed by individuals who are trying to profit, or whether it's fate doing certain things. I mean, how many of you have thought of somebody and the phone rings and it's that person? Or you think of a song and up it pops on the radio. Or you're thinking of somebody and you walk around the corner of a building and there they are. That's not a coincidence. It happens. It's fate. Life is strange. 3 guys died one day. They went up to heaven. And St. Peter was there by the gates and said, guys, I'm sorry, I'm busy, I'm booked. You're not getting in unless you died under very unusual circumstances. I don't have any room for anybody. How did you die? Well, he goes up to the first guy, and the first guy says, well, I had a problem, I think, with my wife. I thought she was having an affair on me. And as you know, I live in New York. I live on the 24th floor of a high-rise apartment. I came home from work early one day. I was going to catch her. And that was going to be it for us. And as I got to the door, I could hear some noises going on inside. So I busted in, went to the bedroom, and there she was, alone. I felt like an idiot. I walked outside. I'm on the balcony trying to catch my breath. As I look down, I see a guy holding on with his fingers on the ledge in his underwear. I said, St. Peter, I started stepping on his fingers. I wanted him to let go. I wanted him to fall. He wouldn't let go. I went in the house, I got a hammer, and I started hammering him. He let go, fell 24 floors, right into a bush. He's on his back looking up at me. I go in the house, I pull the refrigerator out, heave it over the balcony, and it lands on him and kills him. But I died of a heart attack. St. Peter said, oh my God, I'll let you in. Come on. What about you? He said, I don't know what happened to me, St. Peter. I live on the 25th floor of a New York high-rise apartment. And I'm doing my exercises on the balcony. A gust of wind throws me off. But thank God I catch the ledge on the 24th floor. Screaming, God, send me someone, help me. Somebody comes out his door. I'm saying, I've been saved. St. Peter, he starts stepping on my fingers. If that's not enough, he goes in and gets a hammer and hammers my fingers, and I let go. And I fall 24 floors. As I'm falling, I'm saying, I'm gone. My God, I land in a bush. I'm looking up, and I get hit by a refrigerator. St. Peter says, come on in. Goes to the third guy and says, what happened to you? He says, I don't know. Picture this. I'm hiding in a refrigerator. See, I can't say these on Coast to Coast. Linda's been at a couple events. She's saying, not these jokes again. One of the things I like to do with these, and by the way, I have gotten a lot of messages of whether, we're going to do a little picture thing afterward and stuff. Absolutely. And Dolores, I do not leave until everybody's had their chance, just so you know. So we will do that right after this. But we do a lot of Q&A, and how do you want to handle that, the Q&A session? Do we have somebody to read some questions? And if we run out and we're still doing it, we'll just take a show of hands.
All right, George. Well, Micah Hanks here. How are you?
Hey, Micah. How are you? Thank you, by the way. You always do a great job with us.
I've been deputized by Tom Danheiser, apparently, to come help you out.
They thought it would be easier if we had them write the questions and we had them in a basket. And so he's going to ask the questions. If we run out of questions,
if we run out, we'll take them from the audience. Sure.
Then we'll have them from the audience if you run out of questions.
Okay.
But you're going to read the ones that came in.
As well as I can in the dark, huh?
Okay.
Why don't you come up here, Micah, so you can see?
Sure enough.
Micah Hanks, by the way, folks.
George,
You all know. Good to see you again.
This is funny. I'm used to you asking me questions. Now I get to ask you
It's
questions.
it's another way around. That's right.
All right, our first question is, now what is happening to military personnel who experience ET contact while off duty but still on the base? We hear a lot about that. Your thoughts?
Very shocking situation where I think military folks are getting firsthand direct knowledge of extraterrestrial contact, and they are told to basically shut up. Under threats, under national security oaths, but a few of them break loose, as you well know, come on programs like Coast to Coast and tell us what's going on. But by and large, they are sequestered.
What about a false UFO landing that would be a staged kind of a takeover? Do you think that there could be such a thing that would ever happen?
There is always this concern that government will stage a false flag for more control, right? We need to do something to keep our lid on these people. And a false UFO invasion would make them all run to us. Please protect us, save us. So that's very possible.
This very well may be the $65 million question we always hear about. Now, what is the most interesting or informative story that you've ever come across? Can you think of just one?
Oh my gosh, Micah. We'd be here all day. You know, there are many. I think one of the things that keeps this program going the way it does is that the topics are just endless. Endless, whether it's alternative medicine, alternative energy, conspiracies, you name it, we do it. So I couldn't pinpoint just one, but the variety of Coast to Coast is such that you're going to hear it eventually. And so it runs the gamut.
Many of us have, yeah. Now, George, do you think when we talk about figures in the Bible and strange experiences they've had, is it E.T., is it religious, spiritual? Do you think that they've actually had contact with aliens?
Or all of the above. Demons, angels, ETs from other planetary systems, ETs from other dimensions or the multiverse. I think it's a combination of all of those.
Yeah. What about disappearances in the national parks? Now, David Paulides, of course, has written about this with the Missing 411 books. Where do you think these people are going?
David believes that they're falling into some other dimension, that they're merely just disappearing. I think one of two things are happening. Either they're being abducted by ETs, or they're being killed by some serial killers that are, you know, hiding out in these national parks.
Makes you never want to go camping
Horrible.
again, huh?
Horrible.
I'll tell you. Now, speaking of the national parks, Bigfoot. Bigfoot, is this a biological entity? Are we dealing with an alien, an interdimensional? Your
Again,
thoughts?
maybe all of the above. I happen to think it's more romantic to think that Bigfoot is a physical creature from this planet. I happen to like the fact that if there are ETs there, and I believe there are, because I think we've been visited, they're coming from other planetary systems. The other dimensional theories are very possible, but to me, they're way out there.
Yeah, some of them get there. Now, I want to read this one word for word. It's a complex question. What can we do about our own government spending our money with no accountability, hurting and experimenting on us and our earth without our permission or knowledge?
Simply do what we did today. Stand up and say, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. Because let me tell you what probably happened with the rancher in Nevada and the fact that they backed down. So many people went out there to that ranch to support him and his family. I think the government said, we can't do anything. We got to work this out with them in a different way, but we can't do it with violence. And the only way we're going to take our country back and people are going to take their planet back is by standing up en masse. This is not going to happen with you or you or you on your own. It's too big for that. But if it's done with everybody, they can't stop us.
Deserves an applause. Now, George, this is one I've often wondered. If ETs can read our minds, and there are people like Linda Moulton Howe who mean them no harm, why don't they come down and communicate?
Well, maybe they have to certain people, Micah. You know, maybe they haven't directly to you or directly to me, but they may have come here to communicate. And, you know, there's this unwritten rule we keep hearing about of non-interference, that they're not going to get involved in what's going on. I think they've already broached that. I think they've been involved in stopping some other nuclear disasters, and so maybe it's just a matter of time.
George, this person writes, you are a very gracious and respectful coast-to-coast host. You're always so polite to your guests.
Shut
in
up, Micah.
interviews. You're right, I wrote that one. But this person wants to know, what are your core beliefs?
The core beliefs are what you hear on the air. Simple as that. You know what? I was raised to treat people the way I want to be treated, and I try to do it with that kind of respect. Obviously, folks, you all know there are some people who get on the phone and they ramble and they ramble and they ramble, and then what I have to do is graciously get them off without hurting their feelings. Tom has a tape of people who have not gotten on the air who call in. That would be a show all by itself. Let me tell you. I want to talk to that idiot on the air. Sorry, sir, you're not getting through. Click. Tell that putz. Sorry, sir, you're not getting through. Or truck drivers, I love them, but if they don't have the right phone, so he watches for that kind of quality too.
Does a fine job. It sounds like a few of my neighbors may have called in, George.
It might. And by the way, I pity the person who has the mic after me. I spit all over it.
All right, George, the next question. Have you had information from listeners who have had direct contact with what they believed were evil intended alien beings?
Yes, we have had a number of stories and reports of extraterrestrials who have a different motive than what we're used to. Just had a guest on last week who claims that they are out, they destroyed Mars, for example. They nuked them, that they're not very friendly at all. By the way, a little thing I said about spitting on the mic, I got to tell you this one story, and we'll get back into this, Micah. Guy walks into a bar. I love these stories. And he's sitting down, and he sees this little spittoon over in the corner, and he bets the bartender. He says, I bet you $100 I can drink all the spit in that spittoon. And the bartender says, I'm not betting you that. I don't care. He says, come on, $100. He said, $100, you're going to drink all the spit in that spittoon, which is somewhat overflowing by the time. And the bartender says, all right, I'll take the deal, big mouth. So the guy gets down, picks up this big spittoon, and starts drinking. Blub, 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 blub. It's coming down over his hair. It's falling on his pants. He's slipping. Blub, blub. Bartender says, stop. All right, you win. Stop. He won't stop. Blub, blub, blub. Stop, stop. Blub, blub. Wipes his face, puts this empty spittoon down, and says, you owe me $100. Bartender pays him and says, why in God's name didn't you stop when I told you to? He said, I couldn't. It was in one strand. Ha 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 ha.
I gotta catch my breath.
What's for dinner at the banquet, Dolores? Cream spinach. You see how pictures can affect people? I was just telling you a story about spit, and you're all grossed out about it.
What's wrong with these people? Okay.
By the way, you've got some down your face. And,
It's probably spit, yeah.
$100? No, never mind.
Okay. As I'm catching my breath here now, George, do aliens see ghosts or vice versa?
Do aliens see ghosts?
Good question.
Great question. I would say probably not. I don't think they do. I think they're in this other realm.
But do ghosts see aliens?
I don't think so either.
Okay. This is a similar question. Can hybrids be recognized by their eyes? And if so, explain how.
There is one hybrid in the crowd right now. If you look around, you'll probably find them. I don't know where they are now. But there's one of them in there. There's a hybrid, and you can distinctly tell.
How's that?
Their eyes are a little more almond-shaped,
Oh, yeah?
bigger, and oh, there they are.
Glad we found them. Now, George, this is one I've always wondered. Now, how can you tell the difference between an angel encounter versus an alien encounter? Is there a difference?
Well, I think in any angelic encounter is something that is for the good. You're not being abducted. You're not being probed. They're not being tested. I think angels are here to help us. And it's obvious that if you have an angelic intervention, something dramatic has happened for you. I mean, I've had countless stories on Coast to Coast where one guy called, says he was out swimming in the ocean and the currents would take him out too far and he was drowning. He was going down under. And he said, I was underwater, but I saw a hand break through the top of the water and pulled me out, saved me. I'm 200 feet offshore, and people are swimming to come and get me. And I turned to thank that guy who saved me. There's nobody there. To me, that's an angelic intervention.
Absolutely. We knew there were some workers in the light out there, aren't there?
Yep.
Now, George, is it possible? This is a technical question. Someone wants to know, is it possible to get the return of the expanded hours of broadcast on XM? It's hard for some of us old-timers to stay awake from midnight to 4 a.m. CST.
XM. Who listens on XM? Do you? Channel 104. By the way, I want to clarify something because something had happened some time ago and some people were given misinformation. Just so you know, you're getting it from the horse's mouth. We were on XM. Channels changed a couple times over my history of Coast to Coast. Our network was an investor in XM when it first started. So they owned a channel, and they ran a number of different programs on that channel, including ours. We were told the channel was going to go away, and we were negotiating to come on a different channel of XM. Art went on XM Sirius. You remember that story? He quit several weeks later. XM said, we have the channel, while we were negotiating to find that channel. And so we said, which one? They said 104. And that's where we ended up. But there was some discussion about we bumped him off Sirius XM. That did not happen. We had nothing to do with that. We were in negotiations months before he even went back on. So I just wanted you to know that.
Thank you for that.
Does that clarify that?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
He quit. Again.
Race Hobbs, ladies and gentlemen. George, this next question, the human soul and ET contact. Now, this is one of those strange questions that kind of bridges the gap. Are aliens able to do anything with the human soul? Do they, the aliens, have souls?
You know, there's always been talk, Micah, that aliens want our souls. That's one of the abductions. That's one of the reasons for the abductions. They want our souls, that we're very unique in the universe. And we may be. We may be.
George, is there any chance of having your theme song as an iPhone ringtone? Bum, 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 bum,
I
bum.
wish we could, but we don't own that. It's not ours. That's part of the Midnight Express, the movie, and Giorgio Moroder, and it's theirs, not ours.
Great song, though.
Great song.
Still love it. This one comes back to the question of ETs and angels. Can ETs be with you or watch over you like a guardian angel? I think many people probably think so. What do you think, George?
I don't know if they would do that or not. I think extraterrestrials are like us. I think the same primordial soup that created us created them. I don't think they have any mystical powers. I just simply think they're more advanced than we are. You know, you jumpstart you give us, assuming we survive, 1 million more years of knowledge from where we are today. Who knows what we're going to be able to do? but I think there's really a distinction between what ETs, what their motives are.
This next question very well may have actually been intended for Alex Jones, but you will have to qualify for the answer.
Thank you, George, very much.
It's almost as good as my Alex impersonation.
Do
George,
it. Do one.
All right, folks, welcome back to the program.
Whose was better, mine or Micah's? Micah, clap.
George, I'm glad to have you
clap.
on here.
Micah, get off the stage.
I got to come back whether you like it or not. George, is there a false flag coming up via the government regarding aliens?
Project Bluebeam. It's possible. That's another way of controlling humankind. Trick them. Scare them. Let them think that they need us. Very possible. How about what do we do one day if they do holograms and you see huge craft all over the base? People are going to go crazy, panic. You guys won't because you're used to this. You expect that. But the other people will.
George, I know we do programs about hauntings from time to time. Well, have you ever considered doing a broadcast from the old Missouri State Penitentiary in Jefferson City, Missouri? It's coined the bloodiest 40 acres in the United States, and yeah, it's supposed to be haunted.
It is haunted. Did not ever think of doing a show there. Was going to do one at the Shawshank Prison in Mansfield, Ohio, but apparently the promoter got so scared, he canceled it.
Oh, wow.
But I was going to do that in another month or so.
Wow. Well, if we do one, let's make sure we don't bring any Ouija boards, right?
Exactly.
No Ouija boards. George, this person thanks you for Coast to Coast and your years of dedication. I'd like to thank him as well. Would you all mind thanking me with him?
My pleasure.
Now, you have interviewed thousands of people.
4,562 people.
Some of them are crackpots. Like
4,432 people.
Some of them are possible. Now, who are some of the most feasible of the people that you have interviewed over the years? The most credible researchers you've spoken with?
Oh, geez, there's great scientists. Michio Kaku, he was one. Drunvalo Melchizedek, he was another one. I mean, there are just so many, Micah, that are just wonderful researchers and stuff. But I'll tell you the one that was the strangest for me. Okay. I had the name Benjamin Creme. Does it ring a bell? Benjamin Creme represents somebody called the Maitreya, who some people say could be the Antichrist. I had him on the air. Nice old gentleman, nice guy. He's talking about the Maitreya, and people are saying, George, it's a deception. It's a trick. All of a sudden, we have these fast blasts where people can send you instant messages. Hundreds and hundreds of people are getting sick, physically sick, listening to this guy. And I'm looking at this going, what's going on? He sounds normal. He doesn't sound like he's shooting out any evil across the airwaves. I started getting sick. I never get sick. I mean, I actually thought I was going to upchuck into my microphone. And so I had to like move the interview along and get out of it. I felt that bad, Micah.
Wow.
And after we went to a commercial break and said our goodbyes to him, I felt fine. And the fast blasts were coming and saying, thank God I feel better. It was the weirdest experience. And then the other one was Jordan Maxwell, of course. Jordan, who does a number of shows about government and strange things like that. He was on the air getting into some juicy part of the interview, and he was gone. Just gone. Phone was gone. He was gone. Everything was gone. Tom kept trying to dial him back. Got a busy signal. Could never get him back on. Next day, we got a hold of him and said, Jordan, what the heck happened? He says, I have no idea. I was talking to you, and you were gone. Except he said, I got to ask you a question. Did anybody in your studio talk afterward where I could hear? I said, no. I said, if you were going to hear anything, you would have heard me saying, Jordan, where are you? He heard voices on the other end of a dead line that said, do you think he'll get the picture now? That's weird.
I'm getting chills right now.
That's weird.
Wow. Ooh. All right, we've got 3 questions left. George, have you personally had what you feel is an experience with an ET or some sort of an alien being?
I have not. I have seen 2 UFOs from our dear friend. Do you know the name Ed Grimsley? Ed is the night vision goggle guy. Great guy. Great guy. I first met Ed when he was stalking me at an event. I would be at these events, and I would see the same guy all the time with a brown paper bag, just sitting there. And I'm saying, this is weird. Wherever I went, same guy, brown paper bag. I'd go to dinner. I'd sit there with producer Tom. Who would sit over behind me? Ed Grimsley with a brown paper bag. Finally, like at event number 6, Grimsley's sitting behind me again. I said, Tom, we got to do something about this. He reaches into the brown paper bag. I said, this is it. This is where you, Tom, get shot. Grimsley reaches into the bag and pulls out his night vision goggles. And then he says to me, would you go up on the roof with me? Are you kidding me, Ed? You want me to go up on the roof with you? He said, well, we won't be alone. There'll be like 20 other people there. And I said, okay, in that case, I will. And then we're looking at the sky with these night vision goggles. And I swear to God, I saw 2 unidentified objects doing 90-degree turns and stopping. I mean, they must have been 200 miles up. They would go, stop, make a turn, stop. 2 of them. First time in my life I've ever seen anything that I would have to say was unidentified. I don't know what they are, but they weren't insects, they weren't birds, they weren't satellites. Who knows what, but incredible.
You can at least say you have seen a couple of UFOs then.
Yeah,
You know, we've got
no doubt.
We've got a lot of people here who have seen UFOs. Some people here who claim that they've even been abducted by the occupants of these craft. But why are there no photographs? Where are the photos of the ETs?
Oh, the ETs have them. You should see what they have of you. Oh, boy. Look at this babe we abducted. They've got them.
Extra.
Oh, you mean, why don't we have the photographs?
Yes, you.
Well, other than the cell phone, right, in those days, how many people had cameras with them? Nobody.
This is going to have to be the last question then.
Unless we take some from the audience.
Yes, if we've got time, we're happy to do that just as well. Now, George, of all the questions that you've been asked in this area, please tell us what you think is the dumbest of all the questions that you've been asked. Not including any I've asked you.
The one you just asked.
I did ask that question.
What is the dumbest question I've ever been asked? Micah, there are no dumb questions. There are dumb answers, but no dumb questions.
What if I asked you, well, we could either spread pimento cheese or purple gravy on the face of an alien. What would you do?
That is one hell of a dumb question.
I rest my case. Now, I don't think any of the questions from the audience will be quite as dumb, but we've got time to take
Let's
just
take a few, and I do want to do the little meet and greet, and so many of you, we're going to have to factor in the time for this. You know, you've got another 30-plus minutes. Yeah, well, that's going to take all this when we do that. But let's take several questions, though, from the crowd.
No problem. All right, first, we got this young lady down here.
Yes. You want to mic him, Micah?
Yeah.
Okay. Playing the part of Phil Donahue, Micah Hanks.
I don't know about the people disappearing from the national parks. Could you explain about that?
Yes, it's been a research by David Pilates, who has documented a number, I'm talking about a significant number of cases of people, primarily Yosemite, but in state parks where they go in and they never come back out again. Individuals, family members, it is the weirdest story. You talk about strange. It is strange. And like I said earlier, I think one of 2 things is happening. Either they're being abducted, simply taken, they're gone. Hundreds of thousands of people missing on this planet every year. They're just gone. Nobody knows where they are. Like this plane, which we'll talk about in a second. And then, of course, you know, there could be some kind of sicko out there, you know, all over the place. The FBI says that at any given time, there are 50 active serial killers doing what they do in this country. 50. That's unbelievable.
Next question. This gentleman back here.
And while you're doing that, Micah, what do you think about this Malaysian plane? They just can't find it. You know, wrong shot. I think one of two things happened. My guess is it was definitely hijacked by somebody in the plane or the pilots. They have it on some island somewhere. They landed it. Or while they were doing all these maneuvers to avoid everything, they ran out of fuel and they really did crash. But I don't think it was a technical faux pas on the plane or anything like that. They took that plane, clearly. What do you got, Micah?
All right, we got Stan with a question here. Stan?
I've heard you say on your show quite a few times that, especially when a ufologist who's prominent passes away, that there's no one to take their place. Who is going to take their place? Okay, I work with Kansas MUFON. I'm right now their chief investigator. Maybe I won't be on your show tomorrow night, but within the next 5 to 10 years, I'll be there. In fact, there's a large percentage of people in the audience here that do work with MUFON and other organizations, and we're doing everything we can. I know a lot of these people do bust butt. We are working to help pick up that slack and to bring in the next generation, so to speak. So, not really a question, but just wanted to let you know.
You're out there.
We're out there,
Good.
and we're busting butt, and we're trying to help fill the void.
Good, because you know we're going to need that. It's so important.
Your name, sir?
I mean, like with the passing of Dr. Roger Lear, who's going to do that now? We need qualified people. John Mack, psychiatrist, practically gave up his career to study alien abductions. Those are the kinds of folks we need like you.
Next question's from Bob.
George, what do you know about the
Yes, you said Illuminati and they clipped your mic.
Yes. What do you know about the Illuminati and what role are they playing in what's going on in the world today?
I hope that answered that for you. I think those power brokers, those people who want us under this umbrella of a one world government, we call them the Illuminati, the Bilderbergs, those people, that they're doing everything they can for total control. And you see it unfolding in the economic system, in the taking of different areas in war. I mean, they're out there, and it's going to be a battle between them and us. The good point is they can't control all of us, nor can they kill all of us off. They're going to have to play baseball with us eventually.
All right, we've got Amy with a question. Oh, look, he's lost it again. I'm going to have to finish the Q&A, folks. Sorry. Amy has a question.
Hi.
Hi, Amy.
I have a quick question. I think it's David Weatherly that does the black-eyed
Yes,
children.
that is him.
You mentioned that there might be a hybrid among us. That said,
What color are your eyes,
blue,
Amy? Oh,
but
okay.
they are not almond. They are very round, I can assure you. But my question is this. Other than the one that's here now, it's not something that we hear on a regular basis. So my question is, do you have any speculation as to what these are? Because every time he's on, he is speaking about how you get these ill feelings and these it's very negative. And my question is do you think this is potentially hybrid?
Yeah, I think they are.
That's what
I mean, how creepy could it be? You go to your front door and you see 2 or 3 little kids who look strange and weird, and they go, "Let us in. Get away." I don't know what they're up to, what they're trying to do, but I'm convinced that they're out there. And too many people are getting too many of these weird stories of these kids that want to come in your house for some reason. Now, I don't know what they do once they get in, but can you imagine the poor people who've let them in?
Oh, boy.
We haven't heard from them.
Oh, goodness. Maybe Joanne has with her next question. Joanne?
Yes. What is your speculation? This is going back to the missing plane again, about the microchip and the 20 scientists that were aboard and the Rothschilds.
The whole thing is just bizarre. It really is. And again, remember what I said from the get-go. There are no coincidences. Things happen for a reason. Go ahead, Mike.
An interesting name, Moonlight. Your question, Moonlight.
Thank you, George. I would like to know what you know about Planet X, the Nephilim, and the RH factor blood.
Well, in terms of Planet X, I believe that there is another planet in the solar system. I'm a strong believer in the theories of Zecharia Sitchin and this big planet that's out there. And so I think that's a real thing. I think scientists know it's out there. They haven't told us, but it's there. The blood, I can't answer that too well because I'm not that knowledgeable about it. And what was your second question? The Nephilim, of course, if you look at the Bible, if you read Genesis, fallen angels, I think they were extraterrestrials, not angels, and that they came here and bred and did everything else. I think they were very real beings from other planetary systems.
Our next question is from Dot. Dot, what's on your mind?
Hello, Dot.
Hi. My question is, have you had any contact with any remote viewers concerning the plane? And if so, can you elaborate on what they told you?
Yes, we had...
By the way, I'm from Paducah.
Oh, you are? Great. Major Ed Dames came on very briefly and believes that the plane crashed into the Indian Ocean, does not know whether it was hijacked or not, but merely says it's in the Indian Ocean.
Our next question is from Opal.
You're getting very comfortable there, Micah.
Hi, George.
Hi, Opal.
I was wondering if you really did punch Mr. Magic on the show.
Mr. Morgus.
Morgus. Was that a
where
stunt?
his tooth came out?
Was that for real? And what did you think would happen?
Now, you know a magician never tells his tricks, Opal. Sure sounded like his teeth got knocked out, though, didn't it? Sure did.
Inquiring minds seem to want to know. Any more questions? Speaking of inquiring minds, get those hands up high. We got one over here.
Let's do two more.
Two more, guys. So be putting, I'll tell you, we're going to do a brief pit stop in the middle, and then that person we saw over here.
Hey, by the way, I was at a conference back a little before 2012, and somebody dressed up in Mayan elder garb kept approaching the panel. I had a panel of like 5 guests, and he's like got this big sword in his belt, and he's walking to the stage, right? And he's upset with the panel because he claims that none of them understands what the Mayan culture is and all that. And as he's getting closer and closer to the stage, we had to send our people who, like Micah Hanks up there, to kind of block him a little bit. You don't look like you have a sword on you.
I think Candace is going to be okay. Candace, your question.
My question is, and this kind of goes along with Linda's talk earlier, have you heard anything about the government shutdown being related to not releasing NASA pictures of the dark side of the moon because they have a craft that they've spotted there made from materials that are not man-made?
The late Ingo Swann, the father of remote viewing, looked at the far side of the moon and saw structures there. And this guy was one of the best ever. He used to work with my aunt, who was a parapsychologist back in her day. Something's there. Something's there that they don't want us to see or know. And I keep wrestling with why. What a great discovery to be able to tell us, hey, folks, the moon was inhabited a long time ago, and there are structures there. And for some reason, they don't want us to know these things. So there's something else going on.
We have Susan for our final question. Susan.
Yes. Thank you, Georgia. You mean so much to all of us. I've learned so much listening to your show over the past 12 years. But I remember several years back, you had a gentleman on there that was talking about Plum Island and the bioterrorism and how all of our scientists and scientists around the world that were working on the cures or working on creating these things were being killed in mysterious ways. Do you have any new information on that?
That was Steve Quayle, and believe it or not, these microbiologists are still dying. Now the bankers are dying too, by the way. It's another weird story. I'm told Plum Island has been shut down now, but they probably just moved it to some other place. They're working on something. Really? We'll check into that. Whereabouts? What's going on there? Really? At a uni is undercover? All right, how about one more, Micah? What the heck?
Well, yeah, we've got, well, actually, you know, we've got to make them quick, actually. I'm so sorry. This gentleman over here, I think, is the first guy I saw come up. So
And by the way, let's again hear it from Micah. Thank you for doing this, Micah. I didn't expect this.
George, it's always my pleasure. All right, we've got one last question here. Sir, what's your name?
Jared.
Jared, what's on your mind?
Do you have any more information about the large pyramid that they found in Alaska?
There she is. Do you want to answer that? Come on up.
She's got a microphone. Good question, bud.
You know, one of the great parts of Coast to Coast, I don't have to have the answer for anything. I just go to Linda.
I actually have a new piece of information. This past week, I got a call from a man. He was in the Fort Richardson area, and he said, I hear you're trying to find people who may have heard the television show back in 1994, 93, 94, about the pyramid underground. He said, I heard it. I heard the whole thing. And he said, I talked with my family and everybody about the fact that they had found a huge pyramid underground. The film had animation. He said, I kept waiting for them to keep doing the story more and more each night after because I thought this was amazing. And for those who may not remember, Doug Muchler is the man who was at Fort Richardson who called me originally and said that he and 39 other men, 40, had watched this TV program that had animation showing that there had been an earthquake in China, that we had used seismic technology, and that they had found this underground pyramid near Mount McKinley in Alaska. And that story I broke about 3 years ago, I think it was. And over that time, I had 3 whistleblowers that had fathers of people who had worked at Bell Labs and other that talked in more details about this big 750-foot high buried pyramid near Mount McKinley. And it started that the man at Fort Richardson said, that was on television. I wanted to track it down. I went to the local television station that was broadcast. I said I would like to see that video. And the general manager told the guy from Fort Richardson, we don't know what you're talking about. It never broadcast. And he knew that the general manager was lying then and didn't know why. When he contacted me, he said, all of this time, I know that it has to be out there. I went to the general managers and the program directors of all of the TV stations in Anchorage, in Fairbanks. I did a lot of phone research. And they all said it's the same problem in television on local stations. Anything that was there in 93 to 94 would have been thrown out years ago. They don't have archives. But this guy coming, and I talked with him, I believe he's true. He heard the whole thing. So now we've got some whistleblowers. Now we've got another person who heard this program. If anybody here in this wonderful audience, you know or know anyone who might have been around and heard that TV program in 93 to 94, get in touch with me. I don't have to use your name, but I am trying to find that program. And George, I think this is all real. I think there is a 750-foot high pyramid buried. I think that for some reason, that Fort Richardson and that area, they saw this program. And then somebody shut it down, no access, but Doug Muchler remembered and this guy remembered. And I'm just going to keep trying in my own way to see what more I can find. And if I learn more, it'll be on Coast to Coast and Earth Files. So stay tuned.
Thank you. Okay, so who do you vote for the first woman president? Hillary or Linda? Perfect. Thanks, Linda. So we're going to have two meet and greets. One's going to be at the banquet, and then one we're going to do now. If you go to the banquet, let's do yours then, just to make some time here available for those that are here. Okay? And who's all going to the banquet? Oh, cool. Great. We'll see you there. Get out. Hey, thank you. Thanks for everything you do. Appreciate it.